182 episodes of common knowledge, and we're gonna keep on going. Let's see what our first card is as we look at 10 common Magic the Gathering cards and tell you if they're any good in the Pauper format or not. Almost forgot the intro. You got to say the intro. Rush the Room is a single red mana for an instant with target creature gets +1/+0 and gains first strike until end of turn. If it's a goblin or orc, it also gains haste until end of turn. Not particularly great. I mean, we have just better cards than this. I guess the goblin or orc part's okay, but isn't Sure Strike just this, but +2 or no +3? Well, that costs 2 mana. There's something that costs 1 mana that basically does this, but +2. I think. Um, even so, even if there weren't, this is still not an amazing ability. I wouldn't even put it in a Goblins deck. Certainly not an Orcs deck. There's there's no such thing. There's not nearly enough good Orcs to be played in Pauper, or honestly any format. But Goblins certainly. You have Goblin decks out there. I just don't think that a combat trick like this is all that great when you're thinking about efficiently spending your mana in red. 1 mana for 1 damage. I mean, it is played. Lava Dart's played, but Lava Dart also has the ability to flash back, so it's kind of like you're getting 2 damage for a single mana, and you're not really getting that here. The first strike is nice. I mean, it's an okay card. It's a perfectly fine card, but is it a good card? Not really. We can go for a 2.4. Maybe higher, maybe like a 2.5, but it's kind of whatever. Wild Wanderers, 3 and a green for a 3/2 elf druid. When this creature enters, you may search your library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle. Okay. You get a wild growth. What am I talking about? A rampant growth. A rampant growth on a 3/2 body here, but you are paying 4 mana for it. It's not awesome. I mean, it's a decently sized body. 3/2 is going to be able to block a bunch of stuff and trade with it. If the opponent's wide open, 3 damage is a pretty solid amount of damage to do with a single creature. I don't mind that, but I mean, if you need to pay 4 mana and then continue to ramp, like if 4 mana is not enough for you in your Pauper deck, I just don't think this is the time where you'd be ramping. I think 4 mana is the time where you need to start playing stuff like Writhing Chrysalis, which can then help you ramp into other stuff you use the spawn tokens with. So I'm not sure this is quite there. Something like Sakura Tribe Elder, good old Steve, he makes a little bit more sense in that it's a 2 mana creature, so you get it out much earlier, and then it can ramp you later. Rampant growth makes sense for the same reason. You want to get your ramp out early so that you can play bigger spells later. This is kind of a medium-sized spell, and I just don't think you need that. Like I'd almost rather just play 2 rampant growths than play 1 wild wanderer. Um, eh, Again, it's okay, but we just have cards that do so much more, and especially if you're thinking about something like Writhing Chrysalis, which is played in those ramping Gruul decks. It just makes so much more sense because it's both an incredible creature and also continues to ramp. So I think that just kind of puts Wild Wanderer completely out of reach. Even though I don't think even if Writhing Chrysalis was not in the format, I don't think this would see any play whatsoever. I'll give this a 2 point. I'll give it a 2.6. I like that it's a decent sized body and a little ramp, but not much more than that. Wonderbrine Root Cutters is 2 and double Demir hybrid, so blue or black, and a blue or black. And you get a 3/3 Merfolk Rogue. This creature can't be blocked by green creatures. That's a little narrow, isn't it? Green gets played in the format plenty. I don't think it's. I'm trying to think of like what colors would care about. I mean, green is going to have the biggest creatures that you don't want to block your guy. So you don't want a generous ent to block this guy because this guy would certainly die. Is this good? Is a 4 mana 3/3 that narrowly color hoses? Yeah, that's nothing. This is God, the art's so good though, but the card itself is this is really bad. This is trap territory when you're spending. I mean, it's forget trap. Like this is a hill giant. Just most of the time, this is a hill giant, a 4 mana 3/3. A vanilla 4 mana 3/3 because unless you're playing against green to begin with, this does nothing. But even if you are playing against green, a 4 mana unblockable 3/3 is not all that special. And green also has lots of ways of making creatures that aren't green. You know, we just talked about Writhing Chrysalis, but even if you just want to play Malevolent Rumble, an extremely played card in lots of green decks, that makes a colorless Eldrazi spawn, which could block this thing as well. So even if you're playing against a mono green deck, they have plenty of ways of getting non-green creatures out there, and that's not even to mention artifact creatures and things like that. So I don't think this is anything. I can't even say anything nice about it outside of the art, but the art is really good. Anyway, this is like a 1.9, I guess. It could even go lower. Maybe the art's pumping it up that way. Setessan Starbreaker is a great name. 3 and a green for a 2/1 human warrior. When this creature enters, you may destroy target aura. Well, that's a little specific, isn't it? Probably makes a little bit more sense in Born of the Gods, where you had a very enchantment heavy set and probably an aura heavy set, I suppose. But 4 mana for a 2/1 is really terrible. And also, just being able to destroy a target aura is also pretty bad. I mean, we don't have. So Reclamation Sage is not in the format, right? Yeah, this is uncommon only, but this is 3 mana for a 2/1, and when it enters, you can destroy target artifact or enchantment. It's so much more versatile than this thing, which costs an entire mana more, has the exact same stat line, and only can target auras. So this is really bad. The art's good, the name's good, but the card itself is terrible. And I think Reclamation Sage should probably be bumped down to common rarity at some point. And man, this is. I would even go so far as to say Chomping Changeling from Lorwyn Eclipse should be bumped down to common rarity. So then you can do some cool Changeling stuff while also having a thing that can stop artifacts or enchantments. But this thing, really bad, really really bad. Let's go for a 1. I'm gonna go for like a 1.4. I mean, there are some decks that play auras, mono white heroic and Bogles for sure. So it's not completely useless, but those are played decks in the format, but they are not by no means the most popular played decks in the format, and most other decks aren't really messing around with auras. So I don't think you're going to get your value on this whatsoever. So I do want to give it that really low 1 score. Llanowar Cavalry is our next card, 2 and a green for a 1/4 human soldier. You can pay a white, and this creature gains vigilance until end of turn. We're getting a lot of great art in this episode, but also a lot of bad cards. 3 mana for a 1/4, not amazing. Having to pay white means that you have to now be in a couple colors, or at least have some way of splashing white to be able to get this ability. The ability itself is kind of whatever. Vigilance is fine, but I don't really want to spend mana to activate it. And I'm pretty sure we just have 3 mana 1/4 Vigilance guys in the format already. Is that yeah, sure. You know what? Let's see. Let's see what we can do. We're looking for creatures. I don't really care what color they are. Let's say mana value is equal to 3, and let's go power is equal to 1, and toughness is equal to 4, and then on the text, we'll say vigilance. There's got to be. Oh, and also, of course, we need it to be legal in the Pauper format. Yeah, we just have that. you just have that guy already. You've got a flying and vigilant guy from Secrets of Strixhaven. That's right. that's giving you more. This guy can loot for a ridiculous amount of mana. This is the guy we just looked at. So I guess in green, you don't have this option. Well, that's not true. I forgot about my boy, my absolute boy, Yoshin Soldier. I like this one because it is the Mirrodin art, but you got to go for that guy. Oh, look at my Yoshin Soldier. God, you're telling me that I need to pay. What are you doing? What are you doing? I need to pay 3 mana for a 1/4 with Vigil. I'm pissed about Yoshin Soldier. I should have remembered Yoshin Soldier. One of my favorite Magic cards of all time, even though it is not very good. But yes, we just have 3 mana 1/4 Vigilance guys, and they're also bad. So to pay extra for it, oof, no thank you. 1.8. The 0.8 is mostly for the art. Next up, Hopeful Vigil, 1 and a white for an enchantment. When this enchantment enters, you create a 2/2 white knight creature token with vigilance. Okay. When this enchantment is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you scry 2, and you can pay 2 and a white to sacrifice this enchantment. Wilds of Eldraine had some pretty cool enchantments like this. We also have the Hopeless Nightmare, which is pretty good too, and really good in Pauper. In fact, saw a ban in Standard because it was so good, but is still available in Pauper. Hopeful Vigil, I think, is also pretty darn solid. You for 2 mana, you get a 2/2 knight with vigilance. That's not bad. I mean, that's pretty on rate. And then you get some additional value once this thing is put into the graveyard. So yes, it can sacrifice itself, but if you have something with bargain, which is one of the things from from Wilds of Eldraine that can sacrifice enchantments or artifacts or tokens, I think those are the three. So if you can sacrifice it by a different effect naturally, you're going to get this additional value without having to pay a single thing, and that can really be nice. Or, if we had a bouncing enchantment deck in the same way that we do a bouncing artifact deck, like we do with Orsov Blade, this might go in there. It really might. I think if we could get an Orzhov enchantment blade style deck, I would love to try that with a lot of Hopeless Nightmares and this and some other things that you can bounce. Use the Baelmerk Leech. Yeah, use this Baelmerk Leech as something that when an enchantment enters, each opponent loses a life, so you can just drain. Well, you're not draining exactly, but they continue to lose life as you play enchantments. And just kind of ping them down that way. I think there's a lot of cool stuff you could do with a bouncy enchantment deck. I don't think Wizards is interested in doing a deck like that for Pauper. They're totally okay with it for Standard until I guess it got too strong for the Esper Pixie decks or the Orzhov Pixie decks, and so they banned Hopeless Nightmare. But for Pauper, I think they understand. Hey, it feels like we made a mistake with the ability of things like Glinthawk that are able to bounce all these artifacts and make those strategies work really nicely in Orzhov Blade, and they don't want to make the same mistake with enchantments. So we're probably not going to get that deck. But man, I really wish we did. Something like Sun Pearl Kieran, or I don't want Pixie. I don't want Nurturing Pixie in the Pauper format. I think that would probably go a little too far. But man, I think you could find ways of bouncing just enchantments and make a pretty cool deck around it. And I just like the idea of making a bunch of 2/2 knights with vigilance. And then if you ever do need to sacrifice it, you can and scry 2 and get some card selection off it. I like this card. It just doesn't have the right pieces to build a deck around it, as I mentioned. I think we're going to go for... I'm going to go for a 3.9. I really do like it, but it doesn't go in a current deck. Maybe someday, though. I'd keep an eye on this one. Maybe grab a couple copies just so you have it. But, I mean, if you're going to grab copies, grab 4 copies. But it's only 12 cents. You can afford it. What do we got next? Reckless Charge is a single red mana for a sorcery. Target creature gets +3/+0 and gains haste until end of turn. It also has flashback for 2 and a red. I mean, this is okay. 3 power for a single mana. I like that. Sorcery speed's a little tough though. You do really want to have this to have instant speed, so you can flash it in and make a big hit that your opponent's not expecting. Although that would ruin the haste part of it. You want if you're going to give your creature haste, you generally want that at sorcery speed. Well, wizards want you that at sorcery speed, so you don't try to give something haste in the middle of attacking when it shouldn't have been able to attack in the first place. It just kind of cuts down on confusion to make things that give haste a sorcery speed thing. I like that it has flashbacks, so even if you mill it into your graveyard, you still have it available to you later. Giving a creature haste for cheap like this is can be pretty solid, and the power boost is real. But it does give your opponent a little bit more time to choose what to block or what to kill. Maybe they have a lightning bolt in their hand or something, and just any kind of removal spell, and remove your creature in response. Sure, they can do the same thing if this was at instant speed, but you're kind of forcing them. They already have their blocks at that point, so it gives you a little bit more flexibility in a way that sorcery speed doesn't. Although if this was at instant speed, they probably end up having to charge you an extra mana for it. So it's fine. I don't mind it. I'll still give it a 3.5. But I do kind of want it to just be a little bit more. Decommission is 2 and a white for an instant. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. And it also has Revolt. If a permanent left the battlefield under your control this turn, you gain 3 life. I don't think a Naturalize or a Disenchant that costs an extra but potentially also gains you 3 life is nearly enough to matter. I think this is just a very a much more expensive card than it needs to be. You can't make it 2 mana though, because then it just stops something like Disenchant or Naturalize, and we can't do that. But I don't think gaining 3 life is enough reason to pump this up to a 3 mana card. Even though like Healing Salve can gain you 3 life, and that's a single mana. Putting a Healing Salve and a Disenchant together on the same card is not great, and you have to jump through a hoop to even get the Healing Salve effect. So I don't like this. This is like a 1.7. Yeah, it's really bad. Merfolk of the Depths is we're getting lots of good Merfolk art on this episode here. 4 and double Simic hybrid, so green and blue or green or blue. Green or green or blue and green or blue. That's how you say that. For a 4/2 Merfolk soldier with flash. 6 mana flash 4/2. That's not particularly good. I mean, flash speed, yeah, it's kind of like it has pseudo haste on it, but at this point in the game, when you're spending 6 mana on it, I want something more than a 4/2. If your opponent has blockers at all, I mean, I guess the idea is that your opponent attacks with everything they've got, and you take the damage or whatever, and then you're able to flash this guy in at the end of turn, and then swing in for 4 on your own turn. Or you can flash it in on when your opponent attacks, and then make a block with it they weren't expecting. But if you're holding up 6 mana to do that, I don't know, man. There's so many green cards that cost 6 mana that are just giant beefy creatures that are way better than a 4/2, and I'd probably play any and or all of those above Merfolk of the Depths. It's okay. Like the idea that this was uncommon and they went, "Ah, okay, all right, we realize this should actually be bumped down." The idea that this was uncommon at any point in its life is staggering to me. I don't like this card. I will give it a. Does it get a 2? Does it bump down to a 1 something? I'm going to give it a 1.9. I really don't like it. I think this is our last card of the day. Yeah, this is our bonus card, in fact. Launch is 1 and a blue for an enchantment aura that enchants a creature. Enchanted creature has flying. When this aura is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, return it to its owner's hand. We've seen some spells like this before. We've talked about a couple of them. These are I wouldn't call them good exactly. There is one that is good, and that is Rancor. But it's nice that you're trying to get around the problems with auras. That the idea that when you lose the creature that the aura is attached to, you lose the aura too. Well, this is like, okay, well, what if you didn't lose the aura, and then you could put it on something else? Okay, sure. If I try to play the aura and or cast the aura and somebody kills the creature before the aura gets onto it, the aura never hits the battlefield. So then you still lose the aura at that point too. 2 mana to make something fly with no power and toughness boost probably isn't quite good enough. I mean, I understand why it's 2 mana, because if you made it 1 mana, it would totally take a card like Flight out of the format. Not that Flight's a good card either, but you can't just like that's a one time give something flying, whereas this is a permanent give something flying. So I get why it's 2 mana. I just don't like it. And I'd want at least one toughness to be added to make me feel any sort of good about spending 2 mana for this spell. But yeah, I mean, it does keep coming back to your hand, so maybe you have something you can do where you can keep playing auras. And I go back to the, well, it wouldn't be the Ortov. It wouldn't be Ortov for a couple reasons. One, this is blue, but two, I don't even think you'd play it in a theoretical enchantment style Ortov blade deck. But nah, this is disappointing. This is a bit of a disappointing episode. I want to do one more bonus card. Let's give this a score of 2.1, I think. And can we get a better bonus card? Tangle Hulk? Okay. 5 mana for a 5/3 artifact creature, Phyrexian Beast, and you can pay 2 and a green to regenerate this creature. You know, it's not particularly on rate. Regenerates a pretty decent ability. A little confusing for some people, but it's a good ability. It keeps your creature alive. Five power means it's going to block. Well, it's going to attack for a lot, but even if you hang this back to block and then use its regenerate ability, or I guess you can do the same on offense too. The regenerate is going to save you from dying, the low toughness here, but you still are getting a lot of power to hit something. So this trades really nicely, and then regenerates, so it doesn't even have to trade. 3 mana to regenerate is a bit of a cost, but you are getting this big creature, and imagine just being able to block Tolarian Terrors and kill them and stay alive to be able to block the next Tolarian Terror. And with that, I kind of don't hate it. In the right deck, in the right situation, this is okay. But for the most part, you will have better options available to you to deal with something like this. Deal with something like a Tolarian Terror than this. You can just play a big creature. You can just play a Brambleworm and go, what are you going to do about it? So I don't know. Tangle Hulk is okay, but I don't think it's great. I'll give this a 2.5. Yeah, I'll bump it up to 2.6, but that's better than most of the cards we've seen today. Anyway, we'll catch you on the next one. See ya.